Hello, beautiful sacred souls. I'm sure many of you have seen some videos or heard the spiritual concept that Earth is a school. And in this series, I'm going to explore that concept from a trauma-informed lens. This series is 15 episodes. It's called Healing, Not Blame, a trauma-informed view of soul, family, and awakening. This is a script that I have written. This first episode is called Why You Choose This Is Not Trauma-Informed Spirituality. And before we begin, I want to invite you to take a gentle, deep breath with me. I invite you to feel where your body is sitting. And I invite you to observe any sensations. And then I invite you to remind yourself that in this moment, you are safe and you are here. This is a script that I have been written. I wanted to make sure it was clear and articulate, but I hope you'll stay tuned. So today we are opening a series that touches something that I think is very tender. And sometimes I think the approach that many spiritual teachers take can lead to individuals experiencing some sense of harm, especially if they themselves are trauma survivors or if they have experienced any form of violence or oppression. So I think the concept of Earth being a school and the concept in particular of, well, somehow you chose these experiences can do harm in spiritual spaces when it hasn't been handled with trauma-informed care. This idea that Earth is a school and that we choose our lessons or even choose our parents or our suffering is really prevalent out in the world. And I'm not saying that that belief system is wrong, but I'm just going to share my take on a way that we can approach that belief system that is trauma-informed and doesn't blame victims. So if you have ever heard those statements and you noticed feelings of tightness or contraction in your body, or if something inside you went quiet, or if you felt a sense of confusion, a sense of shame, or even a sense of being blamed for what you've been through, I want you to know that your body was telling you the truth. That your body was somehow saying something is not right about this message. Because if the message was true, I believe that the body would feel soft, open, warm, supported, and held. And that anything that is leading to constriction is an indication that something is not quite right or something needs healing. So this channel explores healing, trauma recovery, spirituality, and consciousness through a trauma-informed, psychologically grounded lens. What I share does come from my own lived experiences, my education, my healing journey, and my understanding of neuroscience, trauma, and spiritual integration. Nothing is meant here to be seen as absolute truth or dogma. It's merely meant to open conversation. It is also not meant to diagnose, replace therapy, medical care, or your own discernment. I invite you to instead to take what resonates and to leave what doesn't. I believe that you are always the authority of your own experiences. You may hear me use spiritual language, symbolic imagery, or speak about mystical experiences. If anything you hear activates fear, urgency, grandiosity, contraction, or distress, that is a sign to pause, ground, and seek support, not to push through. I believe that those are signs that there is something inside your unconscious that needs healing, or you might be picking up on a wound within my own messaging. And it is important for us to discern for ourselves what is true by getting curious when we notice contraction. My intention is not to awaken, save, or heal anyone. It is merely to share what has helped me reconnect with my body, my agency, my sovereignty, my humanity, and my inner divinity, so you can decide what supports you on your own unique path. That said, Something I say may support your awakening or healing journey. Let's begin. I want to say clearly right from the beginning, no trauma-informed spiritual framework teaches that a person chose abuse, violence, neglect, or harm. Not a child, not an adult, not a soul. When spirituality tells someone that they chose their trauma, what it does, even unintentionally, is it shifts responsibility away from the harm and those that caused harm onto the person who was harmed. And I do not believe that that is wisdom. I do not believe that that is love. And I do not believe that that is awakening. I believe that is a misunderstanding and sometimes a misuse of spiritual language that comes from a wound. So I want to differentiate between meaning and blame. There is a very important distinction I believe we all need to make. It is true that meaning can emerge from our lived experiences, especially those that were challenging or traumatic. However, it doesn't mean we should assign responsibility for the harm itself onto the victim. Those are not the same thing. Trauma psychology, neuroscience, and compassionate spirituality, I believe, all agree on this concept. Trauma is defined by a loss of choice, a loss of agency, and a loss of safety. When harm occurs, especially in childhood, the nervous system does not experience it as a lesson. It experiences it as overwhelm. The brain shifts into survival mode. The body braces. The self and soul fragment in order to survive. There is no choosing happening there. So when someone says you chose this experience for your soul's growth, it can feel like the harm itself is being justified, or worse, spiritualized. I believe that is spiritual bypassing. And for survivors, that can feel like being abandoned and harmed all over again. So let's explore why this teaching became popular, that Earth is a school and that we chose our lessons. So I believe the reason this became so widespread is often it comes from a very human place, a desire to believe that the world is ordered, a desire to believe that suffering has reason, a desire to feel safe from randomness or cruelty. And I do believe that we are tapping into a level of consciousness that may be informed by spiritual truths. And we might be interpreting it through the lens of our wounds. So, for people who have not experienced deep trauma, this belief can feel comforting. But that is not the same thing as truth. And it often comes at the cost of compassion for those that have suffered. Spirituality is not meant to explain away pain. It is meant to help us stay present with it without blame or shame. So let me explore what I believe trauma-informed spirituality actually teaches. I think a trauma-informed spiritual lens says something very different. I think it says that you did not choose harm. I think it says that you did not choose abuse. I think it says that you did not choose neglect or violence. I think what is true is this. We may have chosen to be born into systems, families, cultures, histories that already carry unresolved trauma. Trauma does move through lineages, through nervous systems, through attachment patterns, through survival strategies that once helped someone cope and that later caused harm. Being born into a family does not mean you consented to what happened inside it. It means you entered into a family system shaped by unresolved pain. It means that awakening is not about accepting that pain as destiny. It is about awakening to the ability to interrupt the cycle. All right, let's explore that Earth is not a classroom of punishment. When people say Earth is a school, it is often heard as endure suffering, pass the test, prove your worth. But a trauma-informed reframe sounds more like this. Earth is a place where duality exists, including unhealed wounds which can create harm, and where healing restores choice, agency, and connection, and that the soul's journey is to heal and restore choice, agency, and connection. Suffering, therefore, is not the lesson. Violence, therefore, is not the teacher. Pain, therefore, is not required for consciousness to exist. Healing is where wisdom emerges. So I want to speak directly to the survivors. If someone out there who is viewing this message experienced trauma, especially violence or abuse, I'm speaking directly to you now. You never chose what happened to you. Your soul is not being punished. You are not behind. You are not failing at spirituality. You are not low vibration. The fact that you survived speaks to your resilience, not to a lesson you signed up for. And the fact that you are healing or even questioning is not weakness. It is courage. So I'm going to name where I believe responsibility actually belongs. I believe that trauma-informed spirituality does not ask, why did this happen to you? I believe it asks, how do we stop this from happening again? Responsibility belongs with those who caused harm, systems that allow it, cultures that normalized it. Healing belongs with the survivor, not as an obligation, but as a reclamation of self. All right, so I just want to set the tone for this series. In this series, we are going to explore Earth as a place of growth without glorifying suffering. We're going to explore the concept of intergenerational trauma without blaming children. And we're going to explore the idea of choosing parents without bypassing harm. Awakening as integration, not as transcendence, but as embodiment. And healing as the highest spiritual act. This is not a series about blame or shame. It is a series about truth with compassion. So, mystical experiences, symbolic dreams, spiritual insights, and healing are deeply personal. They are best understood slowly, with grounding, and often with professional or community support that is trauma-informed. True spiritual and psychological growth does not disconnect us from reality or from ourselves. It actually helps us inhabit our bodies and our experience more fully. I do not offer private spiritual guidance, diagnoses, or personal interpretations through comments or messages. If you are navigating intense emotional, spiritual, or psychological experiences, I do invite you to seek trauma-informed professional care or trusted support. That said, if you find my messaging helpful, I do offer mentorship through my website, blossomingheartwellness.com. And my book, The Divine Within, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World, is a possible resource to support your own healing journey. In closing, I want to thank you for being here, for honoring your nervous system, and for choosing a path that is rooted in compassion, discernment, and embodied truth. I invite you to take gentle care of yourself. I'll see you in the next video, and know You are deeply loved.